I'll read this first. Okay, great. Yeah. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for everybody for coming. So let me just read a few things here. We have people attending virtually, so this session is being streamed for folks attending remotely. The mics will be muted on the remote session, but I'll leave some time at the end to answer questions that come from the online attendees. For those in the room, feel free to ask questions, like interrupting anytime during the discussion. Raise your hand, and we can take questions. I'll repeat your questions so that folks online can hear it. We will try to keep also some additional Q&A time at the end. This session, if it's eligible for CPE credits and you care about CPE credits, there will be a sign-up sheet for you to take those credits. Okay, so let's get started. Maybe I'll start quickly by a show of hands. Like, how many people have ECC deployed or installed on their organizations? Okay, that's great. And how many of you have not seen any presentations or demos on ECC yet? Okay, so a few people also new to them. Okay, so I'll do introductions about ECC itself. My name is Muhannad Ubaidat. I am with the eBusiness Suite development team. My team is responsible for building ECC as a framework and also for building ECC financials dashboards. So if you attended my session yesterday, I focused only on the financials part. And today I'll try to do an overview of ECC and also try to, I guess, demystify or talk a little bit more detail about how ECC works, what makes it work, and how you can take advantage of it in your organization. And also maybe just a quick show of hands. How many people here are apps DBAs? Okay, and how many people are business users on the eBusiness Suite system? Excellent. And how many people consider themselves functional analysts or system analysts? Okay, excellent. So I think the majority on the functional and business analyst side. So I'll try to cover basically topics that are important to all of you, and I'll keep it maybe a little bit less detailed on the apps DBA side. Okay, so let's get started. So basically, ECC, what is ECC? ECC is this new technology framework, relatively new. We debuted back in 2018 with release 1 of ECC. And this is release 10 of ECC. We release twice a year. So we've been very actively investing in ECC, both as a technology and as content. From a technology perspective, it gives you this ability to build what we call information discovery dashboards within eBusiness Suite. So it's not just a dashboard that shows you pretty graphs and nice colors and all of that, but it's also something that allows you to get to the right data in a very productive fashion, be able to basically answer a question that you may have on the fly for that particular interaction with the system, and answer follow-on questions differently every time you interact with the dashboard because you're reacting to a business event. So we're doing all of that using advanced set of capabilities that we built as part of the eBusiness Suite development team. And we bundle all of that inside of the ECC framework. And on top of that, we give you content, meaning we give you actual use cases that take advantage of this technology across many areas of eBusiness Suite. So I'll talk about a few of those areas throughout today's session. One important aspect of all of this is it's a free capability. There's no licensing required. All the different dependencies that we need, plus the technology that we built in EBS, is available to all our EBS customers on 12.2.4 and above to take advantage of this capability. And it's integrated in your user experience, and I'll show demos of that immediately after this. It's integrated with the user experience for EBS. So it doesn't require additional user provisioning. It doesn't require separate management or handling of security access. We piggyback on all the security controls that you've already defined in EBS, and we enforce that inside of ECC. So let's start with a few short demos. So I'll do a demo. Actually, I need to start a VPN, so if you just bear with me for a second, please. Okay, so I'll do a couple of demos, one of them on this demo box. So this demo box is running 12.2.12 EBS, and this is the dashboard after I log in as an HRMS user. So I logged into EBS. If you haven't seen a dashboard like this in EBS, it's been around for a while. You can actually enable this new style of menu for EBS in 12.2, and you can have this area where you put your favorites on the dashboard. So we have a couple of, or maybe 3 different areas where the HCM team has integrated, HRMS team has integrated with ECC. So one of those areas is called ECC Workforce Explorer. So if I click on that, hopefully I haven't timed out. Yeah, I didn't time out. So this is what ECC looks like embedded inside of EBS, but this is focused on Workforce Explorer. So you could be somebody in the HR side looking at different organizations in the system, or you could be a manager that have people reporting to them, and you're looking at your own organization. So what this tells you is how many people you have in your organization, how many of them are contingent workers versus full-time employees, the different spread of your workforce across the different designations, the countries where the workforce is located at, and then a nice, basically, display of all the different personal information, I guess a little bit of personal information about the different employees, their addresses, their pictures, and all of that. And this can be used basically as a springboard to take actions inside of EBS. So I immediately have access to all the data in HR that I'm allowed to see based on my eBusiness Suite security access. And I can drill down in any of these resources and basically take an action, maybe promote somebody or approve some leave request or something like that. And there are a lot of different capabilities here on the dashboard that allow you to drill down into more details. So let's take one example around analytics part. Here I'm seeing all the different people spread across different HR locations. ECC allows you to drill down into any part of the visualization capabilities. Everything that you see on the ECC dashboard is refinable or drillable. So you click on something and it becomes a filter condition, and that filter condition gives you a more focused view on the data that matters for that interaction. We have this cool feature called look ahead visualization. So I'm just moving the mouse on different slices of the donut chart, and basically what that is doing is it actually gives me a peek inside that slice. So if I were to say, I don't care about everything else here, I only care about people in Boston, this is what you'll get. So if I click on that, that becomes the Boston spread of folks across the organization. So I was looking at it from an HR perspective, location perspective. And if I look at that particular office, I can see the different organizations that are based in that office. So ECC drilled down to another level of detail, changed this chart to show me something else, and then still gives me footing where I am in my data by adding these breadcrumbs here at the top that tells me where I am. So this has existed since, I think, V5. It takes advantage of ECC as a technology to give you these features. At the same time, it honors the security, which is very important and somewhat advanced and complex in HR. Like, what employees do I have access to see, whether I am a manager or I am somebody in the HR department. If you wanted to filter, so here I filtered by location. When I picked it from the list, I can filter by something else, like people that have been with us for more than 20 years. So that's another filter that I picked up from here. And I can filter by anything else that I want for that particular employee. So we have a ton of attributes, unlike a traditional system where we are basically picking and choosing very specific attributes that we allow you to search for, because otherwise the search performance will be very bad and the overhead on the database will be very bad. In terms of one of the main values that you get from ECC is we bring that data, we store it in a very optimized format in what we call an index file, binary format. It's not in the Oracle database anymore. And that allows us to give you access to all the attributes that you can think of to be able to search on. And we're not only giving you access to the attributes, we also tell you what those attributes have in terms of data distribution. So basically, I look at date of job changes. I don't need to guess, did I have a job change in 2020? I can immediately see from ECC that the job changes have happened between this year and this year. And I can refine my search within that. Let's say I look at assignment status. These are the only assignment statuses in my data. This is not the full list of all assignment statuses that Oracle put in the seed data. This is the stuff that only applies to the subset of data that you're looking at. And if I remove this filter, this list will change. As you can see, I only had 2 statuses, now I have 4. So that's why we call it an information discovery dashboard. Unlike typical dashboards where I will show you I'll give you all the possibilities, but then you have to fish for the data, right? You have to run what we call blind queries because you have no idea what's going to come out of the other end. ECC always gives you an idea what will happen if you select that filter. So I know that I have data that matches one of these attributes, and if I select it, I'll get that result back. I'm never going to get an empty dashboard because ECC has this concept of information discovery and progressive disclosure of information. So that makes you much more productive finding the data that you need as compared to traditional reporting or traditional search and results screens. So that's one aspect of how ECC works. Obviously, you can type in anything, like maybe I didn't remember anything about these assignments, and or I don't know what that status attribute is. I can start typing anything in my data there. Let's say I type in somebody's name, like Barry. So whatever I type, ECC will look at all those attributes. So sometimes I have something very specific I'm looking for, and I know where to find it because I know the system very well. But sometimes I'm not sure, am I looking at assignment status or maybe some other type of status? So I can just type in whatever I remember there in the search box, and ECC will find a match for that. So that's existed since V5. On the HR side, we have many of these dashboards. As a matter of fact, we have 145 different dashboards. But I'll show you one more cool technology that we added in ECC V10, and the HR team took advantage of it, which is the HR hierarchy in a graphical format. So today, very few customers probably know. How many of you know that we have HR hierarchy inside of EBS using not OA framework, but something called ADF development framework? How many of you know of that or have ever used it? Yeah, okay, one person, and probably you run into some complications, right, setting that up. It's not easy to set up. It's a little bit complex. So what the HR team has done in V10 of ECC is they replaced that functionality with an ECC dashboard. So here I looked at one particular employee. In this case, I picked that employee from a saved search. So you can see you can define saved searches in ECC and basically focus on data that's basically always important to you. You can define it as a saved search and come back and recall it. So in this case, I'm looking at Barry Erickson, and I want to see their organization. So we came up with this new graphical way of looking at your HR hierarchy. Again, this is an ECC dashboard, but with an advanced component. We call this component basically hierarchical. It's called, at the back end, it's called the hierarchical query. We also call it the network diagram. It's basically the ability to show connected entities in one shot, and again, progressively disclose more information to you. So here, I can see Eric, and I can see the immediate manager of Eric, but I can see all of Eric's organization. And you can see the drill down button here underneath each person of this. So if I click on this one, that becomes my focus area, and I can see now the people underneath that person. And you're seeing it in this nice grid format. You can zoom in and zoom out, and you get basically context-sensitive menus here where you can do additional analysis of the data. Now, let's say I go back and maybe focus on this person here on the top and do something that is unique about ECC. So I'm looking at Barry again. I was looking at a sub-organization under Barry, but now I'm looking at Barry. I'm trying to see details about Barry. Again, this all came from the pop-up for the details. In the details pop-up, I can say, okay, you know what? I'm interested in this particular interaction to look at everybody in New York. Like I can tell you for a fact, like in Oracle, we had a drive to try to build a development center, for example, in Mexico. So somebody like our senior VP, Cliff Godwin, wants to see how successful was it for us to recruit in Mexico. So what he can do is he can, let's say he's in the same position as Barry. He can go into this system and say, let me see how many people were hired across my organization in Mexico. So this is exactly what I'm going to do here, but I'm using New York as an example. So if I search by New York, immediately ECC just filtered the whole organization to tell me whether I have somebody in New York or not. If a particular manager under me has himself or nobody under them in New York, then they disappear from the hierarchy. And if they have people in New York, then they show up in this list. Now, this person basically himself is in New York. This lady is in New York. That's why their boxes are still there. This particular manager is not in New York. So if I look at their details, basically they are in Reading, UK. So that's why it's grayed out. But they have some people in New York. That's why we kept them in the hierarchy. And if I drill down, I can see who in their organization is in New York versus not. So great new capability that replaces an existing feature that was kind of hard to deploy and had some glitches around the edges. This one is much easier to deploy. It's part of the ECC framework, and at the same time, it has more features and a much more modern display of the data. So hopefully this gives you an idea what ECC looks like, both from a professional user perspective or maybe a self-service perspective, somebody looking at their organization. So the demos that I do, I try to do demos live, but I have the slides, so you can share the slides with other folks in your organization to show them similar details to the demo that I just showed. So I'm going to skip through that. OK, so now, so we saw how ECC looks like, and we interacted with the HR dashboard. If you attended my other sessions, I did demos for financials. We have lots and lots of demos, and I'll show you where you can see those live demos recorded. And basically, you can sit through them and hear basically the product managers that designed those dashboards walk through use cases of each one of those dashboards on ECC. I'll show you how to get to that information in a little bit. So what's unique about ECC, and why did we build ECC? So when you go into your enterprise system, first thing you want is to be able to understand what's happening in a particular department that you're responsible for. So you go into this dashboard, and the first thing you get is KPIs that give you high-level footing about that organization, system or department. Like in this case, I'm looking at what are my open supplier balances, how much of them are past due, how many expense reports have been filed, how much also I need to pay in terms of expenses for employees. And I see a tag cloud there that tells me also high-level information. So lots of interactive components, very visual, that gives me quick summary about the data. I showed you one also advanced component, which is the hierarchy for HR. We have this other advanced component here, which is, OK, this doesn't work, that's fine. So which is the network diagram. This network diagram is used in many areas in EBS. So if you are using financials, if you're using inventory, if you're using order management, manufacturing, this particular component shows you information about a whole business process from start to finish across modular silos. So for example, if I'm in manufacturing, first of all, I have to go to a supplier, get some ingredients that I use in my manufacturing process. I take it, I put it in my inventory, then I take it out and I put it in some manufacturing process. I produce the finished product, then I put it on a shelf somewhere, then I sell it to a customer. So we're talking about 6 or 7 e-business suite modules, from procurement to inventory to manufacturing to inventory one more time to order management and maybe shipping. So that's a very big process. To be able to run a report to see all of that process, you probably need a lot of time, a lot of effort to develop something like that. With one single ECC component, we actually show you that today. You can put a serial number of a product that you developed and maybe sold to a customer, and you can come back and see every single component that came into the manufacturing of that product all the way until it got shipped. Same thing for inventory. Same thing if you're looking at GL transactions, and a lot of other capabilities that we built using these components. So basically, in summary, we have lots of interactive components, very modern set of tools inside of ECC, and all of this is interactive, allows you to drill down to another level of detail. The other major capability is the search. So it's not just a pretty dashboard, as I mentioned at the top. It's not just showing you one static type of picture. It allows you to drill down, and it allows you to search by many different ways in the system. You can type in any search criteria in that global search box, and we'll find a match. You can say, show me everything except this particular criteria. So you can do negative refinements. You can do keyword type searches. So lots of different ways to get to the right data that you care about. And all the different components basically will react to it. The whole dashboard will redraw itself and show you what you're focused on. Now, all of this is great, but how about when I'm ready to take an action? So it's not information discovery for the sake of just finding out that you have a certain condition in the system that you need to take care of, but also you want to take an action. So you want to pay an invoice. You want to make sure that a service contract is renewed on time. You want to keep an eye on a high-value order, make sure it's not stuck somewhere in manufacturing. So you need to take an action in the different transactional screens inside of EBS. All of our ECC dashboards, when we design them with that in mind. We want you to be able to discover data, find out issues, exceptions, audits, and so forth, but then be able to take an action. So we have integration with all different areas of EBS from a transactional perspective. I can drill down from a payables dashboard in the payables workbench. I can basically drill down from order management to an OA framework page to change the status of an order. I can even make changes in the dashboard using ECC pop-ups. So I'm doing transactions within an ECC pop-up in this example to cancel a dispute in receivables. And this other example, how many of you use Apex for custom development? Wow, okay, that's great. Way more than I expected. So we know that people love Apex. I mean, we go to conferences all over the world, and one of the last conferences I was in, like one major stream was ECC and another major stream was Apex. Apex is very popular. It's an excellent tool. People love it and very productive with it. If you are using Apex to build transactional dashboards or transactional pages in EBS, then you can embed those pages inside of ECC dashboards. So I can have an ECC dashboard, in this case for receivables, and I want to build efficiently, I guess quickly, cancel dispute UI in Apex. So here is exactly what I did. I built that in Apex, and it honors the EBS security, and it's going to cancel the dispute inside of EBS, but in an Apex UI. And that Apex UI is not displayed in a separate page. It's actually displayed here inside of a pop-up inside of the ECC dashboard. We have very detailed documentation on how to do it, and we actually enhanced the integration of EBS with Apex to make sure that this capability is easy for you to take advantage of. So when we did this a while back in V7. Go ahead, please.
Regarding the filters that you were talking about, if people do some wild filters, will there be an impact on the performance, or how is that handled?
Right. So the question is, in filtering, if I do a wild filter, what's the impact on performance? So, one of the main things about ECC is the ability to do filtering. So we give you a lot of different ways to do filtering. We have the typical limitation of only at least 3 letters you have to use to be able to filter. So that's the only protection we have against doing something like completely wild, I mean, to use your word for it. But otherwise, ECC is meant for searches, and it's meant for allowing you to find the data that you know exists. So in ECC, you're less likely to say, blindly run this query, like let's look for amounts that are above $1 million, for example. If there are no amounts above $1 million, ECC would have already conveyed that information to you. So you're not likely anymore to run a query that will result in 0. That's actually the most amount of work that we do on the database side. I don't want to call it useless, but effectively it's useless. You're running so many queries, returns nothing. You're spending a lot of time waiting for it, and the database is spending a lot of effort trying to look for that data. In ECC, that particular category is eliminated. So you're actually more likely to run good queries just because of the nature of how we inspect all the data distribution. Then we tell you, what do you want to pick out of this, rather than let you get basically lost in finding something or looking for something that doesn't exist. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. So the comment, yeah, for Nucor, right, is their users like smart filters. Thank you for the feedback. Okay, go ahead, please. Right. So the question is, like the same dashboard that you're showing me here may be applicable to different groups. And these different groups, some of them may have access to be able to edit something or approve an invoice, pay it. Others, they should only see it in inquiry form. So what do I do in that case? So in that scenario, you would basically make a copy of the dashboard that we shipped. And then instead of the default action-oriented link that we created, you replace that with the inquiry form. And then using the same concepts that we used for the role-based access control, you assign that different dashboard to the other group. So this way they see the same data, but the click for them is a different click. It's an excellent point. A lot of customers are bringing that up. Maybe we'll make it a little bit simpler in the future, but it's doable today. Yeah. So I think you're welcome. So one more question in the back, and then we'll continue. Right. Sorry, other than user-saved searches, do we have all? Right, right. Okay, so the question is, the saved searches that I showed in the HR example, that looked like a specific saved search for me. Can I make it more global? Yes, the answer is yes. An administrator on ECC can create global searches that everybody can see, and everybody can create personal searches. And you can also create default saved searches, meaning when you go to the page, you don't even have to pick that search. It will automatically be applied. So it's a very good feature that, as Nukor said, like customers really like it. Okay, so one more thing, and why I put this is basically none of this can happen on a traditional relational database. That's why we have these different types of technologies that we invest in, that Power BI, Microsoft invest in. That's why Qlik exists. That's why Tableau exists. That's why all of these other tools exist. You cannot have an ability to basically go to a dashboard, have it come up in 10 seconds or 15 seconds, pre-summarized tens of thousands or millions of rows in some cases, and do all of that live on a relational database, whether it's Oracle or not. It's very expensive to run these types of queries on a database. That's why ECC has a data layer where we take a copy, a subset of your EBS database based on whatever dashboard you're looking at, and then we store that in an efficient format, and we report from that storage of the data. It's not another Oracle database because, as I said, you cannot run these types of queries and get this type of performance, this type of summarization, and this type of search capability on a traditional relational database. You'll end up having to index every single column, and you'll bring the database down to its knees. So that's not the right way to do it. That's why, again, all of these tools exist. They use a different type of technology, and ECC does also use a different type of technology to be able to give you this capability. So that's why this data layer exists, and that's why you're able to go to a dashboard like I showed you, and I showed you like an organization of 150 people in basically 5 seconds with the visualization. So a lot of different features or a lot of different complexities have to be dealt with outside of the database typical SQL interface capabilities to achieve this. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So how up to date is the data?
Right. So that's why I mentioned the first introduction, because the next question is how up to date is the data, and that's a valid question. So we have an ETL process. I'll talk a little bit more detail about it in a few slides. The data is as fresh as you need it to be, meaning you have an incremental load process that we ship as part of all of this for the different modules, and you can configure it to run every hour, every half an hour, or every day, depends on the use case. There's always going to be a lag. There's always going to be a difference between the real-time data, the very last record that went into the EBS database versus what you see on ECC. ECC gives you an idea in the dashboard itself to tell you how recent the data was updated. So if you look at every ECC dashboard, has this I button on the top, and the I button will tell you all the data sets involved in this dashboard and the last time they were updated. So this one was updated last week or a little bit more than that. Just because it's demo data, we don't care to update it all the time. But you can have it more frequently get updated. And of course, you have physical limits. So if you run an incremental load and it takes, let's say, 15 minutes to update the data into ECC, then you can't run it every 10 minutes, right? So your physical limit is 15 minutes. Obviously, if you have performance issues with our incremental load, encourage you definitely to file an SR and have us work with you to understand why it's taken longer than you think it should. And we spend a lot of time every development cycle tuning these jobs and making them faster and faster. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So when you say subset of data,
Yeah.
so especially during the month of
Yeah.
finance on business like a shipping department, even they are running a report. So how will the performance be? One. Second thing, how can the finance guys or the shipping guys or the order management guys, when they pull the data, would the data be different, or
Yeah.
multiple reports?
Right. So the question is, if I have data across different modular areas and they're all picking up different data from EBS, what kind of impact does it have on performance? And the other question is, what kind of data does each one of these see? So it's a little bit broad of a question, like to answer very specifically. But basically, every different functional area has its own ETL process, extract, transform, and load process. So, and every one of them is tuned differently to make sure that it gives the best performance possible. Incremental loads should have low impact on the system because of the nature of the fact that they will look only for the data that changed. They don't look for the whole data every time and try to reload it. They only load the net new records or the updates. So they should be efficient enough. Again, if you have a performance issue for your own implementation or a particular job that we ship to you, definitely file an SR and we'll work with you to tune that. Now, sometimes there are some shared data between different products. It depends on the designers. So sometimes they, like let's say I have receivables and I have order management. So if I ship an order, I should have it invoiced in AR. So in some cases, the order management designer may decide that I want to have that data inside my data set. And in other cases, they may say, I want to reference that data from the AR data set. So we have both those scenarios. So if you look at projects and fixed assets, they will look at, so the projects will drill down into fixed assets and then drill back out. In other cases, maybe in the order management case, they may have some additional information about the invoice because they want that data to be self-contained. So it's a design consideration. Okay, so what have we done in V10? So this is not only in V10, this is across the board. Right now, we are again in the 10th release. It came out at the end of April of this year. We release twice a year, typically in April and October, November timeframe, so basically spring and fall. And it's always applicable to every release of EBS from 12.2.4 onwards. So you don't have to be on 12.2.12 to take V10, even though it came side by side with 12.2.12, but it's applicable to everything all the way back to 12.2.4. We have a total of 35 command centers. We refer to a command center as basically a functional area that has one or more dashboards. So GL is a command center, AR is a command center, order management is a command center. Across them, we have 148 different dashboards. And that's a major investment area for us because we don't want to just give you technology. We want to give you technology plus content that immediately takes advantage of that technology for your business users. And the other thing that we invest in with every release is ECC itself as a technology. Make it easier to use, add more features. We added a major new feature, which is personalization for power users. I'll talk about it a little bit more detailed today. Okay, so where do we exist? What's our footprint? These are the details about every single area that we invested in. In V10, we added cache management, net new, and we added enhancements in all these ones that have the +1 sign on it. And everything else has existed from prior releases. And as we enhance the technology, all of these different dashboards take advantage of that. If you're interested, so what's included in, let's say, advanced pricing or what is in procurement command center, I'll tell you where to get that information. You can see screenshots, you can see user guides, you can see implementation guide, and you can see also recorded demos for each one of those dashboards, not even at the command center level, at the dashboard level. Okay, so as I mentioned, we don't take over all your EBS data. We take bits and pieces of EBS data that makes us, that allows us to deliver that capability to you on the dashboard. So we typically focus on live data, meaning something that you need to transact on. ECC is focused mostly on something we call operational intelligence. So I want to make you more productive in your day-to-day work. You're paying an invoice, you're checking on, you're in the procurement team, you're a buyer, you're checking on all the different purchase orders, are they being delivered on time? So I want to make you more efficient. So we focus on that subset of data. We're not trying to take like 10 years of historical financial data and put it in ECC. That's not what ECC is for. ECC is making sure that all of the different things that you need to do every day are available to you. So it focuses on live data. But any dashboard that you look at will have two aspects of its data. So some of it could be looked at from a high-level perspective as summarization of the health of a particular department in your organization. But then the majority of it will be the 75% of making you more operationally efficient. And at the same time, as your users start adopting ECC, you get the benefit of, first of all, tracking how your organization is working and also tracking the usage of ECC itself. So we have something called activity audit that we debuted back in V5 that basically gives you complete details about every user session, every interaction with the system, search, filter, take action, export data. You can track all of that. And you can track it, as I said, to basically figure out, are my employees doing what I expect them to do in the ECC? Is ECC dashboard being used? But also you can do something very fancy with this, which is improve your business process. So we have something called Employee Search Tracker in procurement that takes advantage of this capability to improve the items you have in your catalog. So basically, if you are using iProcurement, you want your employees to go and order stuff from iProcurement because you have preferred pricing, preferred service agreements, and all of that. Now, if an employee goes there and searches for something and they can't find it, they will go and buy it from a store or from the internet and expense it back. And you don't want that to happen very frequently. So how do you keep tabs on that? So this is exactly how you do it. You will look at the Employee Search Tracker, which tracks activity on the iProcurement ECC dashboard, and then improve your catalog listings based on that. OK, so functionally, I showed you very high level, basically the content of ECC V10. What about the content from a technology perspective? We've done a lot on the personalization side. So we debuted capabilities at the end user level, meaning as a business user, I can make changes to the UI, and they will persist forever. You can think of the saved searches that I showed earlier as one like that. So I can make a change on the dashboard, save that search, and I will come back to it any time in the future. But I can also, let's say, change sort order of a table or a chart and do a lot of different things at my level. So limited kind of capabilities, but very important from a business user perspective. The next level is what we call power user. So somebody who wants to come in and they look at the dashboard, but it's not 100% as effective for them. So they want to remove a chart. They want to replace a tag cloud. They want to add something net new. So this is a power user capability that we introduced in V10. And since probably V1, we have this ability to extend ECC, meaning do something similar to what we do in development, but do it custom for you, custom data set, custom application, custom dashboard. That's all allowed. That's all part of the basically capability of ECC from day one. So let's take examples of each one of those. So in terms of preferences, every component that we have in ECC allows you to make a change and allows you to undo that change when you're done with it. So for example, here in a results table here at the bottom, I can remove some attributes or add more attributes. You can see here, add attribute column. And that's it. That will persist forever for my user. Every business user has this capability. I can make changes to the chart. I can make changes to the timeline. Every component. I can even remove stuff from the metrics bar or add them back. And if I'm not happy with my change or I'm done with it, I can click on this undo button, which brings it back to the original state. Yeah, go ahead, please. Can you save it for other people, you mean? Right. Right. So the question is, can I make the similar question about the saved search? Can I make changes to the results table and then that stays forever? And the answer is yes. You can make one version of the change. So meaning, like I went into the payables dashboard and I don't care for the, let's say, the invoice due date for whatever reason. So I hide that. I can go to the receivables dashboard and do some different change. And I add more attribute, let's say. And that will persist forever for my user. It doesn't affect anybody else. And it persists forever until I decide to undo it. This is the nature of user preferences. And we've had it in, so if you've seen it before, we keep expanding it. So in V10, it almost touches every component in the system. Go ahead, please. Sorry, can you raise your voice a little bit? HR security. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is about HR security. HR security is already embedded, and that's why HR did not debut in V1. it took a little bit of a while to decide how to do it in the right way and in a way that does not tax the system in terms of performance. So it debuted in V5, but it's been there for a while. And it's implemented out of the box. OK, power user personalization is basically the next level. And this debuted in V10. I demoed it extensively yesterday and the day before. Basically, it's the ability to be a super user on the system and make changes on the fly. I'll try to do here a quick demo of it for those of you that haven't seen it yet. OK, I don't know if A. Perkins has it, but let's go to payables, for example. So you go into a dashboard. You can see here I only have runtime options and maximize. So let me just quickly show user preferences. So here, let's say I don't use iExpenses for Oracle. So that means I will always have 0 here. So I want to hide this forever. I can just come here and remove the employee balance. And that's it. I remove that KPI. This lasts forever until I decide to come back here and say, undo what I did and bring it back. So basically, get a confirmation. I will bring it back. So it's not lost forever, but it's removed from your own personal dashboard. The other capability that we added is if you are a power user, meaning we have a new profile option. You set for that user, and you make them a power user. That user is able to come here to the dashboard and click on this personalized link. If I click on this, notice what's going to happen to the maximize and runtime menu option there. It will become a fully enabled power user or ECC developer. So now in place, as a functional user who has access to all this data inside of payables based on my security controls in EBS, I'm able to become a power user. So now as a power user, I hate this tag cloud. So I'm going to go and delete it. This was a tag cloud for validation status of invoices. And I'm going to go and replace that with a pie chart. So I drag and drop a pie chart here. I configure this pie chart. You'll notice that I only have access to payables data sets because I'm inside of payables. So I'm going to say, let's go for installments. Let's make it a donut chart, maybe. And in the dimension, I want to put similar to what I had in the tag cloud, status of the invoice. Let's say, validation status. And in the metric, I'm going to put the total count of invoices within that status. So count distinct. And save. That's it, I'm done. So I just made a big change, kind of, like to the dashboard. I got rid of a tag cloud. Not everybody is a fan of tag clouds. And maybe the placement of that chart is not excellent, so I can move it down here. And that's it. I have now a new chart. This dashboard is for me only. Nobody else sees this change. And it makes sense for me to have this, so I'm going to keep it. And it automatically works. Like I want to filter by this. I click, and it just works. It understands that I clicked on needs revalidation, puts it up there in the filter, and that's it. And let's say I want to make it a little bit more fancy. I don't only want validation status, I also want invoice type. So I'm going to say I want 2 dimensions, and I want you to automatically go from validation status to invoice type. So basically, progressively show me more data as I select filter. So let me remove the filter one more time. And you'll notice here, I'm going to select the same filter again. So ECC has a dynamic title automatically. I didn't have to type a title. ECC says you're looking at invoice count by validation status. So let's click on needs revalidation. Now, it says needs revalidation there as a breadcrumb. That's what I'm looking at. And it says now invoice count by invoice type. So this became invoice type. Again, like very nice capabilities, very easy to set up. And this is done as a power user. So I'm done with this change. I'm happy with what I did for this dashboard. I'll end my personalization session. And now the dashboard goes back to normal mode, no X or configure button. And again, this becomes my dashboard forever. And even if Oracle ships a patch that changes this dashboard, I will be notified, and I will have a choice to uptake the new version of the dashboard or not. Yeah, so that's the that's the next feature we're working on. So so there were questions in the room. Can we share this? Obviously, that's the next thing you want to be able to do is share it with somebody else in the organization. An administrator can do that on your behalf today, but it's a manual process. So we're working on a feature in V11 that makes it easy for you to share it with other folks in the organization. Okay, and lastly, extensibility. We call it extensibility because we want you to do it. We know you will do it. It's not customization, meaning we will not overwrite it when you patch the system. Follow our extensibility guide. It tells you exactly how to do it so that you preserve your changes. In the very, very beginning of ECC, we were telling you that you can change our data sets, modify them, but don't build new data sets. But that was maybe in V1 and V2. We don't say that anymore. I saw some slides maybe during the conference where other folks presenting saying, you can do this and this, but you can't create data sets. We actually don't say that anymore. You can create your own data sets. You can create your own applications, your own dashboards. As long as the data is related to EBS, go ahead and basically do whatever you need to do and follow the same examples that we've done to be able to do that. And if you have questions, you can also reach out to us and ask us. We'll give you more guidance. Okay, what did we do in terms of additional stuff we did in V10? It's a big list of enhancements that we did, a lot of components, a lot of new capabilities, pivot tables. You'll see them in many dashboards, including GL. Trellis chart, I showed it in the financials. It's the ability to see the chart split up into mini charts so that it's easy for you to compare it. So you can see a lot of data in one chart all the way until V9. But if you want to compare, let's say, what happened this month versus last month, you don't want them all to be mashed up in the same chart. You want them side by side. We have that capability now in V10. We have the ability to show you data by percent instead of absolute values in the bar chart. So you'll be able to compare the trend of something diminishing or growing over time. And we have dynamic bucketing of data. So you had the ability to bucket data in ECC for a while. But now, without having to do anything during the ETL process, you can do dynamic bucketing on the fly based on the time buckets. Hierarchical query, I showed an example of that. And we're doing a lot more in V11 on this. Search within, that's what I did when I said, show me everybody that's in New York. We had it only in the hierarchical query in V9. In V10, it's also in the network diagram. So even if you're looking at something, for example, in manufacturing, you can take advantage of the same feature. In terms of usability improvements, I'll start from the one at the corner because that's something that's a pain point for all customers. First of all, customers love to export data out and don't know what they want to do with it, but they love to export it out, right? So we added that feature in V2. So everybody has ability to export data out. ECC is not an export utility. And if you're only using it to export data out, that's not really worth the effort of setting it up. But we have export. You can export the data. One of the annoying things about export the data in ECC was the date format. We intentionally used a date format that makes it easy for us to read that data back into ECC. But that was annoying because you probably wanted to export the data to take it into Excel and do something else with it. So we now give you the ability to select whatever date format you want as you export the data out. So that's a feature that I think customers would love. And we have a lot of enhancements in the results table. It looks much better, much more modern, more refinement enhancements. We keep adding that. So this is a major feedback we got from a big US bank that uses iProcurement for tens of thousands of employees. And one of the things that they wanted is an ability to add and remove filters very quickly. So all the way until V10, you had to, even if you're adding a single filter, you had to select an OK button to confirm that selection. So now you can just do quick select. You can do multi-select still, but you can also do quick select. So these features are there now. And then lots of enhancements in the diagram row expander. I can show you quickly here if I still have my session open. So here I looked at this and everything looks good. Let's say I go back to this person here on the top. We have a ton of features crammed into this. So you may want to see this in a different way. So this is graphical. Maybe you want to see it as a table. You can click on this, and here you see it in a tabular format, and you can expand it, and you can see the depth of the level of every employee. Maybe you want to scroll up the hierarchy. Here is all the hierarchy of that employee. You can click on Tucker, and you basically look at the hierarchy for Tucker instead of looking at the hierarchy for this other person, basically Barry. Let's go back to Barry and show one more thing here. So as I showed, like you can show it in a tabular format. You can show it in a different format. You can expand the whole hierarchy and see it in full-blown network diagram format. So instead of seeing it one level at a time, you can open the whole thing up. Not advisable, but you can do it. And then the last thing I want to show is you can print it out as a PDF and basically share it with somebody else in your organization or give it to somebody else. So we have a million different ways of looking at that same data inside of this interface, and each one of those different ways of looking at the data is more productive for a particular use case. Yeah, I think there was a question in the back. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, when I export the data, I get two header rows. One of them has the attribute keys, and one of them has the descriptions. It's intentional. It's not a bug. Other customers brought this up in the past. There's no way to control it. You get both, and the reason why you get both is you need the attribute key if you want to make some changes to that data and bring it back for experimentation inside of ECC. So today, all you have to do is just delete the one that you don't care about. So that's the way to do it. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Similar to this example, is there also a way to display purchasing position hierarchy in the diagram using ECC?
Purchasing position hierarchy in the diagram. So the question is, you have the person hierarchy. Do we have purchasing? Right now, no. But if you don't mind, please go to the MOS community and put that as an idea. I'd love to hear that. OK, do we have any questions online that we need to take?
What does validated mean on the ECC dashboard? What makes data validated?
What makes data validated? Or is the question is like, how do we validate the data?
What does it mean? Like, what makes the data validated versus not validated?
OK, I'll take this as a question about how do I ensure that the data that I see in ECC is valid versus not compared to the source system. There are many ways to do it, and the answer is different based on the dashboard that you're looking at. Let's say, for example, I'm just implementing payables, and I want to see whether the data that ECC is showing me matches up with the data that I have in EBS. There are traditional reports in EBS, so we encourage you to actually still run those reports at the beginning of your validation cycle to make sure that you have credibility in the payables data. If you have specific questions about specific areas, reach out to us. We'll tell you what we think is the most appropriate report, because we have 145 dashboards, so many examples to basically ensure the credibility and the validity of the data. But we definitely, encourage you to do that as you are gearing up to implementing and deploying ECC. OK, I'll try to get through more slides and then try to leave more time at the end for more questions. So we added more enhancements. Redwood theme, if you've heard of Redwood, there's a big theme at Oracle called Redwood theme, which is basically a new style that goes across all the different product families, whether on-premise or cloud. We are compliant with that. So basically, the interface that you see in ECC looks like the interface you would see in the latest versions of the SaaS. It looks like the interface you would see in Apex. It looks like the interface you would see in the cloud management UIs. We're all using the same components, and we all use the same themes. And we have a lot more enhancements that we've done across the board in ECC. So I'll talk very briefly. I know we have a few apps DBAs, but I'll talk very briefly what does it take to get ECC up and running. So ECC can be installed as another middleware component inside of your eBusiness Suite middle tier box, or can be installed on the side. We encourage this, or basically strongly recommend it, so to speak, to be separate so that you can scale it separately and it doesn't affect anything else that may be running on that box. We have a data layer that basically stores the data that you bring out of ECC into EBS, out of EBS into ECC. All of this is done through concurrent managers. These jobs are shipped by us for all those 35 different command centers. And in some cases, you have controls over how much historical data to bring. You have controls over whether you run it for every single data set or subsets of data sets. And then you have controls, obviously, on scheduling that to run incrementally to refresh the data. Just the main word of caution is always run from here. Never, ever run data loads directly from ECC. There is an interface in ECC to do that. It's meant for us to diagnose issues on your system, and it's meant also for development, not meant for runtime. For runtime, you always come to the concurrent job. It's described in the implementation guides. And we enforce EBS security. So we had questions about HR security. It's enforced. Whatever security we have in financials is enforced as well. It's enforced in all the different dashboards that we ship out of the box. And if you build something custom, net new, you can build your own data security handlers. And we explain how to do that in our extending guide. We're integrated with EBS. We saw examples of that earlier. And that's very important and a differentiator between us and any other third-party tool that you may get from out there. If you are anybody here taking advantage of EBS on OCI? Okay, so a few people. So you can take advantage of ECC on OCI as well. So you can take our cloud image for V10 and basically kind of like cut through 70-80% of the installation process, because we will just instantiate that box for you with ECC, and then you can just go through the integration piece. We've done a lot since V1. V1 was debuted in OpenWorld 2018 with 6 modules, and we've done a lot. And this is not meant to be something that you will read, but just as a reference, that we've built a lot of different capability. We put a lot of effort in this. It's a big investment area for everybody in EBS, not only the ECC team, but for every single product development team within EBS. And we're doing more in V11. So V11 is underway. We're kind of like almost on the third of the cycle of development for ECC V11. We're adding more support for Trellis, more capabilities for search. This hierarchy, we're actually working with a big US-based customer in the telecom business area. They actually want a hierarchy for expenses. So somebody was asking me about hierarchy for purchasing. They actually wanted a hierarchy for expenses. So I want to see my whole organization and how much money every employee is spending. So we are actually working with them to build that feature into V11, both at the technology level and the content level. We have a ton of information, as evidenced by this presentation. We have a lot of information that you can take advantage of. Most important thing to remember from here, no licensing required. The other thing is we have a lot of ways for you to talk to us. The MOS community to ask us questions, the ideation dashboard to basically tell us about ideas that we should invest in the future. We have a live lab. I did this live in the Sunday workshop of installing ECC and taking it all the way to personalization. This is something where we take advantage of OCI. You basically get a machine on OCI for 8 hours, and you can experience ECC for yourself. It's an excellent lab to take advantage of. And we have a lot of videos that are recorded with our senior VP, Cliff, about all the different areas. But if you were to remember anything about this session, it's this. We have something called Quick Start Guide for ECC. It's under this vanity URL. Thanks to Anne in the back who created this for us, oracle.com/ebs-ecc. So basically, this has links to every public document that we produce in development. So here, all the documentation related to technical aspects, like extensibility, installation, and advanced setups. Here is all the patch numbers that you need to get started on ECC, regardless of which EBS version you're on. And the last and most importantly, for the majority of the audience on the functional side, links to every single dashboard, user guide. Every user guide has screenshots of the dashboard and description of every element you see on the dashboard. So that tells you exactly what you expect to get if you implement it. And there's a link on each one of these as well, the very first link in every box. It's called Implement and Use Training. That link is demos of every one of those dashboards by the product manager that designed that. Lots of rich information. We spend weeks and basically preparing it and hours recording it. Please take advantage of that. It's important and it's very, very rich information. Okay, that's all I wanted to cover. Any last question? We have 1 minute left. Yeah, go ahead.
So, currently we are on V9.
Yeah.
And we have a requirement of developing some custom ECC reports. So when we add a new custom report to already existing application, say for example, so when I have to migrate from UAT to there for every UAT, so is there a way to migrate only that particular report? Because currently we only have application.
Yeah. Okay, so the question is, we're building custom dashboards inside of existing applications. Is there a way to migrate only that separately? The answer is no. Right now, you migrate the whole application. So you export the whole application and migrate it. But one other way to go about it is you can build your own application and just migrate that. And then from EBS perspective, that page will still act the exact same way as the page that was embedded in that original application. So that's one way to do it. In V11, we're actually considering an enhancement like that, where you can pick and choose the pages that you want to migrate and only take those so that you avoid the headache of, am I bringing something that I shouldn't bring over to the other side? So we're actively looking into that. Yeah, go ahead, please. Oh, sorry. Oh. Okay. This one? Yeah. Do we have any questions online?
Are you able to tell us when V11 will come out?
So we don't actually say exact dates because we can't commit, right, because of Sarbanes-Oxley compliance and all of that. But we release every fall and April. Every fall and spring. So yeah, so I just gave one away at least. Okay. Any other questions online?
No more questions online. So
Yeah.
let me just say, are
Can
you
we
going to
get
take
one
some
more,
more?
one
Okay.
last question, please? Yeah, go ahead.
In regards to the data load, when you transfer the data from Oracle to ECC, does it just know which data to transfer to ECC, or how is that?
Right, so the question is, when you run the data loads, how does it know what data to transfer? So the data loads are built on top of PL SQL programs, PL SQL packages, and every PL SQL package will have logic of how to get the data, where to get it from, whether to pre-summarize it or do any prep before it brings it out. Now, to understand what controls you have over that, you would go to the implementation guide. So if you look here in these links, the second link is called implementation guide, and it will tell you whether you have controls like profile options to say don't pick up more than 3 months worth of data or 6 months worth of history and so forth. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm
I was
good,
just
yeah.
going to say thank you. On behalf of everybody in the room and OATUG No Hug, Mohamed, thank you for being here and giving us all this great info.
Thanks guys for attending.
And anyone who needs CPE credit, please remember to use the sign-in sheet at the back of the room before you leave. Thank you.